Alrighty. This is proving to be quite the challenge. You will see me click multiple times on that red bar just to make sure that it is recording. I have gone through this PowerPoint. I think this is number 7. So we will see. Hopefully it keeps recording the entire time this time. And it goes. This is Union City's drill. Because of this virus, we have now had to come up with a new and improved way to train, which we're all super excited about. It's great that technology has been able to connect us this way. Unfortunately, technology is super frustrating. So hang in there with me. Bear with me through this process. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I've never done anything like this before. Hopefully it goes flawlessly, which I seriously doubt. Starting off, we're going to go through some basic stuff. I'll save the long intro for Wednesday night. We will be having a meeting on Zoom Wednesday night at 7 p.m. I will send out the link to, or the code or whatever, to log into my video. So I'll send that out on I Am Responding. Hope to see you all there. Make sure you take notes when you're watching this so that you can review Wednesday night. Write down things that you thought went well. Write down things that you thought could have been more. Questions you have. Concerns, inaccuracies that you picked up. Please give me positive and negative feedback. Hopefully, with all of that, these will get better as time goes on. And then, double hopefully, we can go back to normal training. So, in front of you is the fire tetrahedron. 4 sides. You have oxygen, heat, fuel. And in the center where the flame is, you have continuous chemical reaction. If one of those things isn't working, then you can't have fire. Our job as firemen and our general suppression techniques is to remove one of those things. Most often, we're removing the heat aspect by applying the wet stuff to the hot stuff, aka Duke, and lowering those BTUs, lowering that heat, and making the it harder and harder for that fire. Right here, you have the 4 stages of development. So you have ignition, growth, full development, and decay. Obviously, you have your start of the fire, which is your ignition. And then as more fuels get burnt up and start to catch fire, they eventually reach that full development. Once they're in that full development, they're not there for very long. This is where the fire has reached its absolute most intensest point, and then those fuels start to dissipate again, and it starts to slowly decay, which is where you see that nice downward slope. We want to get in there and flatten that curve. We don't want it to reach full development. Obviously, if it reaches full development, then you're looking at property loss and more damage and all of that really fun stuff that we don't want to happen. Our job is to interrupt that curve. This video I will attach in a link below. It very, very beautifully explains and visually shows those stages. And it's very brief. It won't take very long at all. Reading smoke. So this is something that I know I definitely need to get better at. And I'm sure that some of you do as well. It's just one thing that we might not, know 100%. I guess it's in the back of our minds. We sort of know what's going on, but to have a refresher on, it's not a bad idea. And it can tell us a lot. So it can tell us what is going on in a fire. It can tell us what stage the fire is in. It can tell us if that's something that we want to be going into, if it's something that we need to vent, if it's something that we need to cool before we put somebody in harm's way. So, velocity. How fast is the smoke moving? Indicators that there is pressure is swift moving smoke. So if you have fast moving smoke, one of two things is causing it: a high buildup of heat or restricted volume. So you have this swift moving smoke that's caused by heat. It'll typically rise and then slow gradually when leaving a building. We see this a lot with plumes of smoke. Especially if we can recognize the seat of a fire. And then restricted volume, it indicates a volatile condition. The smoke will immediately slow and mix with the air outside. If the smoke is agitated or turbulent, it could indicate a flashover or a backdraft. Both of these situations are not good. We want to vent and cool in order to avoid those adverse reactions. So, color. In rare cases, you can tell what's burning. Very, very rare cases. I personally don't think I have ever been on a scene where only one thing that had one ingredient was burning. So you're going to kind of get a mixture of different things. But it can tell you what stage the fire is in. Or it can tell you, oh my goodness, the majority of the fuels that are burning. This slide, for some reason, hates me and doesn't want to pop up. Thankfully, I've gone through this about 60 times, so I've memorized the slide. You have your white smoke, which is going to indicate that it's new. Your fire is just kind of starting out, and it is burning off the moisture in the content in whatever's burning. Your tan or brown colored smoke is going to most often signify natural substances, sticks, wood, leaves, grass, things like that. You're going to see more of a tan or a brown smoke. And then, most likely with grass you're going to see white, but details. Then you have your gray or your black smoke. So your gray or black smoke is indicative of your plastics, your synthetic materials. Pretty much what all of our houses are made out of now. And everything in our house is made of. That's why our fires burn hotter. They burn quicker. Firefighting in 1980 is not even close to firefighting now. We are dealing with way more different and materials and everything else. Where at one point we had 10 minutes to get into a fire, we're working with 5 before we start to lose some integrity in some of these newer buildings and newer construction and things like that. So stuff we really kind of want to be paying attention to when we first pull up on scene. Density and volume. So according to my handy dandy essentials book, volume is not a accurate tool to use for telling you what's going on with a building. There is just too many variables that can affect how much volume of smoke you're getting. So it's just, there's too many things that can sway it. It's not accurate. However, the density can tell you a lot, and the thicker the smoke, the more you want to be keeping an eye on your fire conditions, because smoke is unburnt fuel. So the thicker that is, the more fuel you have, the more violent the reaction is going to be if it were to ignite. Definitely something you want to be keeping an eye on. Definitely something you want to be watching conditions for. Some familiar names. Once again, links for both this and the backdraft will be below in the drop-down section. Please go and watch those. They're very brief, but I think they do a really good job in visually showing what's going on. Better than words do. Oh, excuse me. So all or most objects in a flashover reach their ignition point at once, or very close together. They generate an immense amount of heat and flames, which is a very dangerous situation for anybody who is involved. We need to be really, really paying attention to the conditions that are changing in the inside, and making sure that we're keeping ourselves safe. So a backdraft occurs when a fire uses up all the available oxygen in the container that it's in. When the air is introduced back to the building, like us ventilating or opening a door. Opening a door is still ventilating. We are introducing oxygen into the structure. So it can be extremely dangerous, because what happens is you now have this fire that's been struggling to get all this air and has nearly smothered itself out, and then introduce those elements and reconnect that tetrahedron, and you get this very volatile smoke explosion. The video that I've attached shows this beautifully. Make sure you watch what the smoke is doing once they close it and open it. Very, very, very good demonstration of what is going on with the smoke and what you can see happening with it. So make sure you're watching that, continuing to take notes, and bring that with you tomorrow night, or tonight if you're watching this Wednesday. Building size up. So the first unit to arrive on scene, whether it be an officer or it be a truck, should be giving a size up. You want to list your building type. Is it brick? Is it wood? Is it metal? The size of it. Is it a single story? Is it a multi-level? Are you going to need a second and third alarm? Types of things like that. The purpose. Is it a commercial building? Is it a residential building? Is it a hotel? Is it multi-residential? What conditions are present as far as doing a 360, but is there smoke showing? Is there flame showing? That 360 really, really is vital as far as that, because you can look at the front of a building and maybe see nothing, and in the back you miss that in the bottom window there is flames in the basement. So you definitely don't want to miss something like that. Make sure you're doing a 360. It can also tell you different things too. A 360 is not only good for finding out what's going on with the building, but in some of the more rural areas, you might walk behind a house and find a pond that you can use for water supply if you need to. Different things like that. So make sure you're doing that 360. Don't tunnel. Take your time and really know what you're going into before you get into it. And then finally, establish a command. Very important. If you don't establish a command, you have a bunch of people kind of running around and there's no true leader. they might be reporting to somebody who's reporting to somebody who's reporting to somebody. And then when someone, an officer shows up, or you get a neighboring agency that has an officer there that then establishes command, at least you would hope, would you have 8 different people giving him 8 different stories about what they've been doing, and there was no established communication between all of them. It creates a very chaotic situation, and it's just not good. It's not effective. We won't be using our resources wisely, things like that. So very important to do those initial things before we really start getting into it. Another thing, more things to think about with Size Up. Drivers, you should be thinking about your truck placement. Think about what truck you're driving. The ladder truck, make sure that you can get the stick up if you need to. If you need to adjust the truck, make sure that you're going to be able to adjust the truck. Once you drop lines, that's going to be pretty difficult to do. So try and set yourself up in the most convenient way and the most useful way that you possibly can. All members should be keeping an eye out for hydrants, fire, police, the initial officers on scene, the trucks coming in. You should be looking for water supply. If you know you're going to a place where you're not going to have water, make sure you're getting companies on the road if you need to, and getting a water supply established. We can only fight so long before we're going to eventually run out of water, especially on some of these fires that are in those further stages of development. So what do we need and how much is a big question that we should be asking. Are we going to need more manpower? Who do we have that's packable to go inside? Different things like that. And are we going to need utilities to come? Are we going to need Penelec? Are we going to need the gas company? Things like that to come and shut things off for us, or are we going to be able to take it and secure them ourselves? Some of those services take a little bit to get out to us, as we all have experienced. So to get them on the road, the sooner the better. Big question, again, is everyone out of that structure? This should be a consistent thing until it is confirmed. You should be treating it as there is possibly people inside. Look for signs that somebody is living there. Look for signs that somebody's home, cars in the driveway. See if you can get somebody to get a hold of a neighbor. Hopefully the homeowner is on scene. But if not, you need to be making sure to try and keep track of, all of those things and potential victims. We definitely don't want that. Building attack. So hitting it hard from the yard, and interior. Are we going to do one of those? Are we going to do both of those? A couple months ago, we had a fire where we did both. We pulled up, we had water supply directly established immediately, pretty much onto our truck. So we were dealing with an unlimited water supply. We could use all the water we wanted. Nick was able to hit the outside of the structure where he could see flames with the deck gun, while we grabbed an interior line and then advanced that. Very flawless technique. It worked out really, really well, and we knocked the fire down very quickly. In that instance, it worked. It might not work in every instance. In that one, it did. So that's kind of some things that maybe we need to be considering. And then another big thing is, do we have the resources in order to do that? Had we not had water, were we still going to do that? Had we not had water directly piped into our truck and had an unlimited supply, did we want to empty our tank using that method? Or did we want to save our method for a more localized attack with our hoses? Command, pump operators, exterior and interior crews should be watching for building conditions. They will change. Absolutely 110%. your fire scene is going to develop the whole way through. From beginning to end, it is going to be adapting and changing. You need to be able to do that with it, and you need to be keeping an eye on those conditions, keeping each other safe and looking out for each other, watching the roof lines, watching things like that, and drawing attention to it if you see something that is an unsafe practice. Remember that everyone is a safety officer. Just because we have somebody designated to be that person, as far as I know, Kenny doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. So we all need to kind of look out for each other and watch each other's backs. If we see one of us doing an unsafe practice, we need to call it out. Don't worry about causing a tiff with somebody. Don't argue if somebody calls you out about it. Say, yep, you're right, I should have safety glasses on. Yep, you're right, I should have my helmet down. Or I should have my shield down. Things like that. Oh, your collar of your coat, you forgot to get it. Here, let me grab it before you get burnt. Things like that. Or, your Nomex isn't all the way tucked in. Be looking out for your guys. Keep each other safe. And work as a team. That's very important. So keep remembering, it is okay to learn and lean on each other. We have all learned differently. No two people learn the same way. No two people absorb information the same way. And no two people are going to look at the same fire the same way. So somebody's going to have a different perspective. And it's okay if they have a better idea than you. If something's not working, maybe trying another idea is not a bad thing. Just because a rookie has been in the department for 3 months and is only 3/4 of the way through his essentials class doesn't mean that he doesn't know what's going on. It doesn't mean that he might not have seen something, or she, that gives a different perspective and could work. Don't just discredit somebody because you think you know more than them. Whereas you might know more than them overall, they might know more than you in one subject. So just keep that in mind. Work as a team, and just continue to stick together. In conclusion, there is so much to learn. None of us have all the answers, and we never will. Use your resources and keep in mind what you have. And your resources are information resources too. It's not just your manpower. It's not just your water supply. If you're not sure, there may be somebody on that scene who's run a scene like you, or like that. Pull on them, pull on that experience. And always expect the unexpected. We all know that. Keep your head on a swivel. Be keeping all of that stuff in mind. That concludes drill. Make sure to watch those videos that I've attached below. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope everybody got at least something out of it. I know that it wasn't flawless. I know that maybe the information could have been better or could have been more. That's why I want your guys' feedback. That's why we're doing this review Wednesday. So please bring that. And be prepared to really talk about this drill when we open that discussion up tomorrow night. I hope that you all are staying happy and healthy. I miss every one of you. I miss our traditional drills, and I can't wait till we get back to it. So I will see all of you tomorrow night on the beautiful app Zoom. And take care until then. I don't know how to end this. Ruthie, stop it. Wait, stop.